to YouTube as well. Welcome back to the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. Where is Eden? There is Eden. You're here in the game, right? Yeah, you are. Okay. The sound quality on this new headset is a little bit better as well. So I've got to get used to that. Alright, we have Vanilla Ice here. We've got Poke-Go and D20. Not much HP. Good damage, bad tear rate. Oh! T000H0A4. A8, sorry. A4 Force of Habit because it's a paper size. I don't think there's an A8 size paper. Either way, that is way too many zeros in one seed. That is very strange. Oh, a choice. Ghost pepper or poison? I'll take poison. And by which I mean boogers. I totally knew that wasn't poison. Boogers is better. Oh, this isn't, no. Small room sloth. But once I get some boogers stuck to the enemies, it shouldn't be too bad. Oh, also, again, for the YouTube side, new headset. Noise cancellation on them is a lot better than my last set, so I feel very weird hearing my own voice because it's much more muted than it. Oh, the faded Polaroid gave us camo effect there. So I'm getting a little bit used to how I sound with these new headsets. They're not a fancy ass brand or anything, but they're newer than the kind I was using. That kind I was using before lasted a hell of a long time. I noticed that there was like some green goo on the USB connector for them, and that was kind of like my final, yeah, I need to replace these because I didn't know USBs could have green goo on them. I'm still not entirely sure what caused it. Hang on, was it green or was it blue? Let me check. It's still there. I would say predominantly green, but a little bit of blue. I don't know what that is. I've never seen it happen. It's almost like it burnt out or something, but I guess that wouldn't be green or blue, would it? It'd be like black, presumably. Definitely looking for a couple of bombs. You bit a chunk out of the inside of your lip. Good job. Have you been to the dentist? Because if so, you've got an excuse. If not, then questionable. 2 bombs, please. I asked very nicely for my 2 bombs that I was promised when I asked for them nicely. Google says it's a liquid inside them that extends the lifetime of the cable. So why would it be leaking out? Although I did run over it with my office chair once, so maybe that like squeezed it out and... oh, I was lucky. And that's what caused the... like the issues I've been having with it, maybe? A tear? Hold on. Oh, I forgot to mention at the top of the stream, but Twitch is now doing that bits offer. 2,500 bits for the actual cost of them. They're not taking their cut for whatever reason until April 1st, I think it is. It's a good deal in the sense of you're giving the streamers exactly what you paid for. It's a way to bypass needing to use third-party donation things. That's going to start doing damage now, right? Yeah, good. But then we'll start talking about other stuff once I get into the next floor. Your choices are my cooking adventures for my day off, or I watched more Arrow, or... yes, the negative thing to talk about is Article 13 or 12, whatever article it's called, passing. I look like Frankenstein's monster now. We didn't get a single bomb that whole floor. I should probably go back for the magician, it might be useful. Oh, wait. Bomb? No, it's still pretty good. I might be able to buy a bomb now. Okay, we've had 1 vote for cooking and 1 vote for Arrow. Please. I just want to take my shop and leave. There is a bomb. Okay, now we have to hope that we pick the lucky tinted rock, which would be this one, based on it being closer. Yeah, I'll take that. Twitch is trying to strong arm you like the frog. They claim you have 2 days left to continue your sub, but that you have 8 days until you can resub with Prime. What? I mean, even if you lose your streak, that's no big thing now because it keeps track of totals, regardless of whether it's a streak or not. Hello, Vice President. If it's telling you two different dates, then I have no idea which one you're supposed to trust. Also, we lost the bone in our head. We don't look like Frankenstein's monster anymore. Oh, that was a bolt in his neck, not a bone through his head, but it's about as close as you can get outside of the item that actually gives you them. Which is the 9 volt, I think. Trust no one. Alright, well fine. Let's see, what am I likely to talk less about? I'm less likely to talk about cooking longer. So, I attempted a couple of dishes. I told you about one last week. That's the good one. Yes, good. I made candy floss flavoured fudge, and I made my own coleslaw. Nothing to do with the slow cooker. Just decided to try making my own coleslaw because I was curious if I could do it. The candy floss fudge turned out pretty much as you would expect. I wouldn't say the candy floss flavouring was very, like, prominent. I wouldn't have tasted it and been like, yeah, that's candy floss. But I also used like a white chocolate mix, which probably made it a little bit sweeter. Alright, yeah. Use this though. God, that Reinhardt sounded really echoey there. You are hearing that, right? You're not getting anything out of this? No. Okay. Candy floss is what we call cotton candy, yes. Thank you G Tomlinson95 for subbing with your Twitch Prime for an undetermined number of total months. I didn't realise you didn't call it cotton candy, but, or rather, sorry, candy floss, you called it cotton candy. Although now that you say it, yeah, I've heard that in various TV shows. Either way, the flavouring doesn't taste like it. If anything, I think it just kind of added like an extra sweetness, and white chocolate's already sweet, so maybe if I'd used milk chocolate it would have been more prominent. But so far, the bubblegum flavouring was nice. The candy floss one, it's not that it's bad, it's just fairly irrelevant. Oh right, you're friendly. You're friendly and yet you shoot at me. It's no wonder I'm confused. We passed another tinted rock, right? Somewhere. You call it fairy frost? It's very strange. Was it in the item room? Was there another tinted rock? Am I going crazy? There might not have been another tinted rock. There was one in there, but I blew it up with Mr. Boom. That's what it was. Australia is a strange country. Yep. They wear shoes on their hands and hamburgers eat people. Oh, as far as the coleslaw goes, I followed a recipe, and I would say my initial reaction was, well, I didn't have any white wine vinegar, and it called for that. I decided to go ahead without, just to see how it would taste. I wouldn't say I added much salt, but all I could taste was salt. I think I added a fairly heaped teaspoon. And I think the recipe called for a tablespoon, so I actually put in less than it requested. But the salt taste was overpowering. You saw 3 foot tall cotton candy? Grief. That is relatively large. So, I asked my mother if she had any white wine vinegar. She said she did, so I got her to drop it off later in the day and mix that into the mixture. It lessened the punch of the salt, but then it added a kind of, well, vinegar aftertaste that I'm not used to coleslaw having. So I think I'd call the coleslaw a miss. I gave my mother away some of it and she didn't complain. Will this kill me if I have an empty skull? Ah, we're early enough, I can start again. Okay, it didn't. Good. Thank you, Hybrid1, for subbing with Twitch Prime again for an undetermined number of months. You can send me your wife's recipe for coleslaw. It probably has terrible decor. I'm not sure I want it. I asked my mother for my grand's old recipe, which is what inspired me to try and make it in the first place. And apparently she didn't use mayonnaise in it, she used salad cream. I don't know if that's something you have in America, but we have something that's just called salad cream. So apparently she used that, so I'm wondering if that's the difference maker, because the mayonnaise was pretty strong as well. It's essentially just a mixture of like mayonnaise, carrot, cabbage, creme fraiche, and sugar. But that's essentially all it, well, and the white wine vinegar. I don't know what Miracle Whip is, so I can't confirm or deny whether or not it's salad cream. Salad cream is something you put on salads. I would describe its taste as sweeter mayonnaise, also thinner mayonnaise, it's not as thick. Like the consistency of tomato ketchup, but nothing like the taste. Salad cream is something the Brits invented during the war because ingredients for mayonnaise weren't available. Huh, there you go, that's why it's so similar to mayonnaise. The more you know, I didn't know that. And knowing is half the battle. The other half is execution. Gangland style. If you know what I mean. We are talking about salad cream, yes. If you just Google like Heinz salad cream, you'll see what it looks like. Or to prove that it exists at the very least, and I'm not making it up. So that was my cooking adventures. I'm not sure I want to make like every Tuesday Isaac like here's what I cook type thing, because that would set the expectations way too high. Because eventually I'm going to run out of flavours of fudge to be making, or recipes I feel like I can handle. And they're more like a now and then thing. I might be able to get you a key as well. I think I might have 2 spare keys. That's assuming that all my various sources come through for me. Dry baby. My immortal dry bone friend. Sora's doing fine, other than obviously still not wanting to ever leave the house. But yeah, other than that she's fine, she's sleeping fine, eating fine. Despite her eating very healthily now, she is still not put on any size, so I think she's just going to be a scrawny little thing for her entire life. Which must be lucky. It's inspired by a Swedish artist you enjoy? Well, that's good then. Maya's not doing particularly well right now. She's... well, she's off her normal food, but purely to try and settle her stomach. Apparently she's been getting up my mother at all hours to go outside with... what, I don't know if this is an international word, but we call it the skitters. It's like Scottish slang for diarrhea. Let's try the battery. The scoots. Yeah, okay, that's similar. The imaginative words we think of to mention poop-related things. Takes effort to make a belly like yours. You can't, yeah, I'm not surprised that Australians would just call it the shits, yes. Actually, before we talk about Arrow, that reminds me, I know it's faux pas to, well, not even confuse, but imply that New Zealanders and Australians are basically the same, but you reminded me that I watched a New Zealand program on Netflix, which we'll talk about before getting to Arrow. And I saw the guy who stars in some other Netflix cooking show, but I don't remember which, and he was just a guest. And it was called, oh, that's very good. It was called Zumbo's Just Desserts, or Zumbos. He's got a strange name. He touts himself as like the Willy Wonka of New Zealand because he just makes fancy ass pretentious desserts, basically. And the cooking show was like amateur bakers competing for 100 grand by copying his desserts. And the program was not very good. I had it on in the background while like filming battle reports and stuff. Well, in between obviously recording. Does he have Oompa Loompas? Well, that's the thing. It's like his name's on the door, as it were. He barely says 3 sentences every episode. I don't know if maybe he's like got developmental issues or something, but he barely talks. He barely like conveys emotion. Maybe it's shyness. I don't know anything about the guy, but the impression I got was that they wanted to do a show about him because he makes these wonderful looking desserts, but he can't carry a conversation essentially. So they have him. And then they have the co-presenter who does most of the talking, who doesn't seem to have any cooking credentials at all. They're never mentioned, which means they probably aren't a thing. Because if they have some kind of like credential, of course they're going to mention it at every opportunity. She does most of the talking, she does most of the critiquing, and yet you're never told what her qualifications for said critique are, beyond like eating as a human. Which I didn't fully understand. And then they have this utterly pointless lady who is the Oompa Loompa, as it were. No disrespect to their appearance, just their role. They're a chef, a little chef who can barely speak English, has a very strong accent of some other origin than New Zealand. And her goal is purely to shout at the contestants how much time is left, when on the side of the stage they're all cooking in, there is a gigantic clock telling them how long is left. That's her only role, is to shout the numbers. I have no idea why they bothered hiring someone to do that. They could have had Zumbo do it. So it's a very strange program. Definitely not worth watching, because it would be exceptionally difficult to emulate any of the desserts they're doing for a start. 2, they're just all pretentious nonsense. And 3, it wasn't entertaining. Well, actually, no, I found one thing entertaining, that one of the contestants just constantly says bugger it. Oh, you obviously don't hear that in any of the like American-made stuff because they don't say bugger at all, but I just liked, this was this housewife's thing that she says when anything goes wrong in cooking. She just mutters under her breath, bugger it, and I found that quite amusing. Also, the wrong person wins 100%. They give it to the unlikely winner because it's more dramatic. They don't give it to the person who was consistently the best through the whole thing and was incredibly competent. Even when they tried to badly edit one episode to make her look incompetent. So definitely a lot of, like, there's no actual contest, it's all just shit. So yeah, definitely avoid, not good, but I was running out of cooking programs to watch that were actually like a contest of some variety, as opposed to that one that's just like a documentary about chefs' lives. What was that called? Shiro keeps on telling me to watch it, and I have it marked, but I don't like chefs. Apologies to those of you who are chefs. I find that chefs constantly abuse their position in Power Trip, despite it not being a particularly grand profession. So I don't really particularly care about their life stories. I say as I go into details about my life to strangers on the internet. The irony is not lost on me. Thank you ScumaCat13 for subbing with Twitch Prime for a total of 14 months. Cooking stream when? Overcooked 2 was a cooking stream. When we do the DLC for Overcooked 2, that will be a cooking stream. You're a food scientist? Look, that's partially why I decided to start learning to cook stuff myself. Because I wanted to see if there was any kind of like... I don't know, I don't even want to say like any skill or it's more like drive. I have a problem with chefs who are represented in media, to be clear. That's not necessarily how chefs are in real life, especially celebrity ones. We went into this a long time ago though, but there is no inherent disrespect by refusing to call somebody chef. If anything, the disrespect is on the other side, expecting someone to treat you like some kind of feudal lord. It's the equivalent of calling someone master. Mister I could accept, maybe. but not the equivalent of master. If I just got really tired of how they spend so much time on making it look nice, just eat it, it'll end up ugly in the end anyway. That's also true, yeah. Did I talk about the other cooking program I watched? It was a contest of like the world's greatest chefs. I think it was like seat at the chef's table or something like that. It was an international thing. I didn't mention it because you know what? I was saving the story because it was another program where they had a Scottish guy on and they subtitled him, but not always. And the only reason they subtitled him, as far as I could tell, was that Scottish people tend to become less clear when we talk quickly. So when he was kind of doing his actual cooking, he was talking quicker because he was rushing against the clock, and that's when they subtitled him. They subtitled other folk as well with strong accents, to be fair, but it is a pet peeve to see a Scottish person who wasn't particularly lacking in diction get subtitled. Can't quite remember the full name of that program though, but yeah, it was something like At the Chef's Table. There was no prize. You got to sit at a table with the like worldwide renowned chefs that hosted each week. Like each week was a different location. I found it funny that they even bothered to do a British one, considering we don't have any fine cuisine. Except what we've like appropriated from other people, I mean. And they had Gary Lineker as one of the judges, and Holly Willoughby. You're British, you'll know who they are. Because they're definitely people who should be judging international, like, the highest possible tier of food ever. Is a footballer who hoovers crisps, and a TV presenter with a double-digit IQ. That one I would recommend watching though, just because it's like the fanciest looking crappy food you'll ever see. Because they keep on getting like these bizarre ingredients no one has ever heard of to use. Like a rare tree bark, or like a rare squid, or a bunch of just stuff you would never want to actually eat. What about haggis? They did not cook haggis. Also, without going into like full spoilers, the Scottish guy who's teamed up with his friend from America, they do very well. They get quite far, and that's despite the Scottish guy constantly being ribbed for never being able to make haggis and never having heard of any of the ingredients he has to use. Because I think he was like French trained, maybe. Either way, like he had no idea what half the stuff where he was having to use, but he knew enough about food, I guess, to test or taste test and then be like, yeah, that'll probably go with this. Thank you TBC Tainted Tab War for using your Twitch Prime for an undetermined number of total months as well. So that one, despite not really being an actual contest because there's no real prize, it had interesting moments. I liked watching that one, but the Zumbos Just Desserts, hell no. Where was I through Arrow when we were talking about it last week? Was I partially through Season 1, or had I finished Season 1? Oh right, those explode. I think it was in Discord that I was complaining about none of the characters knowing how to pronounce Ra's al Ghul. The only characters who pronounced it correctly, and that's including Ra's himself, was Nissa. Her actress was the only one to pronounce it correctly. And sometimes the guy who played Ra's pronounced his own name correctly. Other times he did not. And it was infuriating. Yeah, but that was definitely in Discord I mentioned that, because it was at the time it was happening. Yeah. Merlin sometimes got his name right and sometimes didn't. Well, let's assume I was either way, maybe all the way through Season 1 or just like partially through. Season 1 was good. It raised the stakes specifically. That's not the word I'm looking for. I don't know what word I was looking for. Either way, it raised the stakes nicely, had a good enough ending. I liked it. And Season 2, well, I guess I'll be vague-ish about spoilers, but I'm going to mention some, because you kind of have to, especially if I'm going to mention a couple of things I don't like. It's the last shop, right? Yeah, because it's an XL. But kind of just like a general, maybe kind of spoilery warning. Season 2, main antagonist is Deathstroke, and the League of Assassins are kind of there, because they're setting up Season 3. Season 2 I liked. I'd say it's a hell of a lot better than Daredevil Season 2. I like Slade as a villain. The side stories with like the Murakumo turning people into super soldiers, didn't like that at all. That was unnecessary. Surprised they killed off some of the people that they killed off. Yeah, Slade was okay. He's more like human than I would expect him to be, because the setup is he was stuck on the island with Oliver. So they kind of formed a brotherhood together, but then a woman comes between them and Slade wants revenge, and he goes about it in a very malicious manner. Slade going evil was silly for you? Well, it's the drug that turns him that way. Which I guess is the excuse, because if you set him up that he is kind of a good guy, he has to turn bad because it's Deathstroke. Deathstroke's a baddie. So having the drug be the excuse for him to have like misconceptions about how things happened and to be embracing his darker impulses, that's fine. It's just the stuff with Roy and the drug, utterly unnecessary and exceptionally tedious. But like the Season 2 finale of like Deathstroke and his mercenaries up against Team Arrow and the League of Assassins, that was great. I liked the finale was good. Well, see, it's funny that you should say fuck Roy, because at first I disliked him immensely as well, which was not the actor's fault, because I think the actor's fine. It was just the way his character was portrayed. And it's interesting because Oliver's sister and him are essentially the same person in Green Arrow lore, split into two people. Because Roy is meant to be Green Arrow's kind of like Robin, if you want Batman comparisons. He goes by the name Speedy at first, then he goes by the name Arsenal, and then eventually he takes the name Red Arrow. And I was like, when he became Arsenal, I was like, I know that name from somewhere. Why do I know that name? I must know it from Batman, because where else would I know it from? And I know it from Night of the Owls, which is the collection of the Court of Owls all going after various Bat family members. And Arsenal is on a team with Starfire and Red Hood when he deals with his particular assassin. So I knew him from there. Check my email for the keys. Good point. 1 second. This is important for what we're doing after this. Unfortunately, they have a habit of sending them right after I finish streaming. No, I don't have one. I'll definitely get at least one. It's just if I have another one, that'll be up in the air. Once he was just kind of like doing his sidekick stuff with Oliver, that was great. I liked him as Arsenal. I do not like the person who becomes Red Arrow at all. Very bad actress, very unbelievable character arc. And that brings me on to my biggest problem. Well, no, there's two. One I forgot to mention when I was watching Season 1, and that's every single time they showed stuff on the island where Oliver was stuck. They were doing this really crappy filter and shaky cam stuff that was horrible. Thankfully, they stopped doing that partially through Season 1, because it was just awful to look at. Them kind of indulging in his backstory. Like Season 2, okay, he wasn't actually alone because a boat kind of crashed on the coast and then there was people on it looking for the Murakumo. That's fine. That means there was other people and that forced him to do some things he regretted. Totally fine. It's when they keep embellishing the story of him being on the island that it just gets so stupid. It's like, oh yeah, he was on the island for 5 years, but actually it was like 2.5, and then he was in Hong Kong for a year. Then he went back to the island for the rest of the time. It's just so stupid. They should never have done that. They should have just had it wrapped up with the series that focused on him and Slade, because that's all that mattered. Anything else is just tedious. Hello, Daniel. Oh, I know it gets worse after Season 3, because I'm into Season 4. I went straight from the season finale of Season 2 into Episode 1 of Season 3. Now, that might be unfair because obviously there was what, like at least a year probably between those seasons, or at least half a year for people to like come down from that. But going from that action to the first half of season 3, which is nothing but crappy melodrama, is the absolute worst. Season 3 is exceptionally weak. I fast forwarded a lot of it. Just all the scenes with characters constantly lying to each other for no good reason. I just fast forwarded it all because I didn't care. So yeah, that got exceptionally tiresome in season 3. It started to pick up more once it got into the League of Assassins stuff, although even then it's so convoluted. And also, a lot of it I just can't help thinking that, oh, I wish this was about Batman, because like Green Arrow is just borrowing all the best villains from Batman. Or not even the best ones, just ones you would associate more with Batman. Deathstroke, Deadshot, Firefly, Ra's al Ghul. Who else is in there? There is others, but I'm blanking on them currently. Oh, there was a Harley Quinn cameo, which I thought was quite fun. Because Suicide Squad is a thing in the Arrowverse. And when Diggle is there to form the Suicide Squad and they're talking, a voice that's very clearly doing a Harley Quinn from one of the cells is like, "Do you need a doctor? I used to be a doctor." That was a nice nod. Oh yeah, Solomon Grundy, although they did nothing with him and utterly wasted him. Not nearly as bad as the Solomon Grundy they had in Gotham, though, to be fair. The Gotham Solomon Grundy was the worst. Yes, born on a Monday, although he's mostly as Cyrus Gold, more so than Solomon Grundy. In fact, he's not really a Solomon Grundy at all, but he's Cyrus Gold, and that is Solomon Grundy. It was Tara Strong doing the voice? Ah, that explains why it was so good then. Yes, Arrow is just Batman, yes. I know. And I'm fine with that. That's probably why I'm enjoying it more than I might otherwise. Because despite season 3 being generally weak, I still watched it. I just fast forwarded a lot of shit of two characters having the same conversation for 3 seasons in a row. Very tiresome. But I picked up at the end. A reasonably good conclusion. And season 4 I'm not very far into yet. But I know who Damien Dark is because Valinor used him in a game of the tabletop Batman game that we played. He seems like a fun villain so far, kinda. I want both these, but my HP is not in a position to take both these. And I think the guy they got to play Constantine was pretty good too. I don't know if he's going to play a bigger part, but I liked him. They also set up the Flash's origin story as part of the Arrow story, and then they obviously broke off to their own show. I haven't watched that yet, but Barry Allen's obviously had a few cameos, especially in season 4 because it's a crossover episode. In season 3 there was a crossover episode where they had to get Captain Boomerang. He was the guy from the Constantine show that got cancelled after 1 season. Oh! Well, it's nice to know that he had like familiarity with the character then. I didn't even know there was a TV oh wait, you know what? I did. Some person I followed on Twitter kept on retweeting like demands for the show to come back. I'm glad they found a technical way to make it happen then. They have him in the Legends of Tomorrow? Oh, that's unfortunate because I don't have any interest in that. He voices him in the animated movies too. Oh, nice. I think I'm going to not enjoy the Flash TV show much. Because they kind of deal with this every time there's a team-up episode, in that like the Flash TV show is dealing with metahumans, so it's very comic booky, whereas Oliver's basically Daredevil, so he's just dealing with gangsters who kill people. So the stakes are kind of higher on a personal level. I don't know, it might be a nice fresh breath of fresh air to see like supervillains getting taken out, but I do know that the Flash TV show has a low budget, and that's reflected in the CG. I didn't like Barry Allen at first either, before he was the Flash. After he was the Flash, I liked him a bit more. At least again, from the cameos. Yeah, Flash is more fun, Arrow is more serious. Also, Cort, is it Atom that you said was like your favourite character? Because Atom is in Arrow as well, but I don't think it's the same type of Atom. Because he's essentially Iron Man. Captain Atom, not Atom. Oh, okay. He's pulling Ryan Casey. Up and Atom! Up and at them! Better. So as far as season 4 is going, it's alright. I'd say it probably peaks at season 2, but there are, what, 2 seasons left after that? I've got 6 seasons. I don't think we need Epic Fetus. We might still die, actually, even regardless, but I'll leave it. I can't remember if there's any other observations I wanted to have. Other than like characters constantly rehashing emotions they've had for multiple seasons, it was just the mispronouncing Ra's al Ghul that really, really got on my nerves. The guy they had playing Ra's was fine. Not the guy they had playing him in Gotham. I think the guy who's playing him in Gotham has the look better. That was a good reroll. I will still watch Flash after I finish Arrow, but I'm not trying to watch it in like correct chronological order, so by watching some of the season 4 crossover episodes I've had things that happen in Flash spoiled, but whatever, that's the cost of doing business. We can use this. Those are both very good as well, and I get to keep my tiers. So because we're almost done, Arrow Season 1, Arrow Season 2, recommend those. I don't recommend Season 3, but for context you pretty much have to watch it. Season 4 so far is okay. Actually, you know what, like, to go out of my way to talk about Damien Dark again, not familiar with him in the slightest. The guy who's playing him is very good, and I like that he's not just like super villain. I like that he has like a constant sarcastic side, and that he's constantly impressed by things the heroes do. So I like that they're taking a different approach. He's not just like Ra's al Ghul with a different name. And obviously, Season 4 is also the season where they start dealing with magic. It's kind of like a recurring theme. That might put some people off as well. I'm giving it a chance. If you're willing to put up with meta-humans, I think you'd be able to put up with magic. Oh. Lee Palmer is played by Brandon Roth, who was Superman in Return of Superman. You know what? That makes so much sense. When I first saw him, I was like, where do I know his face from? I genuinely thought he was Christopher Reeve's son because he has so much of Christopher Reeve's face. I had to Google what Christopher Reeve's son, I can't remember how many he had now. I had to Google their IMDb because I was so sure he was someone related to Christopher Reeves because he looks exactly like him at that age. So they picked well making him play Superman because he definitely looks like Christopher Reeves. Distractingly so. Like, Google the guy who plays Ray Palmer and then Google Christopher Reeves in his 30s. They look identical. Like Superman 1. definitely helps. It's part of the reason that he was cast as Superman. That makes sense. He had longer hair in Superman Returns, right? That's probably why I didn't quite like spot him as being in that. I knew him as somewhere, or from somewhere, and I knew it was Superman related because he looks like Superman. Or rather, no, he doesn't look like Superman. He looks like Clark Kent. That's the probably the better way to say it. He looks like the perfect Clark Kent. Hang on, you posted pictures of both. Let's see. Yeah, like doesn't that look like father and son? Because Christopher Reeves had a weird nose as well. Okay, I was just double checking my email as well because I was alt tabbed. Anyway, didn't get the key unfortunately. Oh right, we haven't actually killed Blue Baby yet, huh? My hope for the continued seasons of Arrow I've still got to watch is that they dial back less on the rehashing emotion sharing scenes over and over, which I know they're there because the program is for TV and it has a low budget and they're there to space out the action. I know they serve a purpose. It's just after so many seasons I'm so tired of hearing them. And I hope the fighting scenes are a little bit more good, I guess, and not just Green Arrow shooting arrows at people no matter how many times they have some way of countering it. That's another thing. I hate that all the big villains each season have to be good with a bow as well. But that's probably enough time talking about that. I'll probably mention like more of season 4 and 5 next time. For YouTube, see you next time. Ta for now.